All right, welcome to the deep dive. We're about to plunge into, well, a really interesting contrast today, the state of the Indian tea industry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might think tea, India, huge success story,
I
right?
think so, yeah.
Well, the reports and analyses we've been digging into, they paint a more complex picture.
Definitely more complex.
So our mission today is to unpack why India, this giant of tea, might actually be facing significant challenges right now.
Right, especially when you look globally.
Exactly, even as the global tea market seems to be booming. And we want to look at what specific, maybe even surprising changes are being proposed to turn things around.
There are some big proposals on the table.
We're here to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources for you. And right away, what leaks out is this striking disparity.
It really is stark.
A world thirsty for tea, markets growing rapidly, versus these reports of decline and struggle within India itself. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. So when you look at that global tea market, the picture presented in these reports is overwhelmingly positive. There's serious growth happening.
Okay, like what kind of numbers are we talking about?
Well, for instance, the business research company, they forecast the global market hitting $75.5 billion by 2029.
75 billion.
Yeah, with a compound annual growth rate that's AGR, the average yearly growth of 6.3%.
Wow, 6.3%. That's healthy.
Very healthy. And Statista, they're even more bullish. They project market volume close to US $180 billion by 2029,
Whoa, 180 billion.
with 5.56% growth just between 2025 and 2029. Even if you take a more sort of conservative view, like Market Research Future, they see it growing from about $57 billion this year to $70 billion by 2035. Still growth.
Okay, so robust growth pretty much across the board globally. What's fueling all that demand worldwide?
The reports point pretty clearly to evolving consumer tastes.
Right,
People are increasingly health conscious,
right.
and that's driving demand for things like organic and specialty teas.
Okay, the fancy stuff.
Exactly. And there's also a growing preference for, sustainable practices in how tea is actually produced.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not just about the price anymore.
Cool.
Consumers are looking for quality, sure, but also health benefits, unique stories, and ethical production.
Got it. So a global market expanding, driven by these specific trends like health and sustainability. But is India riding this wave? Because the reports we've seen, they suggest something quite different.
They do. And this is where that contrast really hits you. India is, it's the world's second largest tea producer.
Huge.
Huge. But reports indicate significant struggles recently. Production has reportedly dropped quite, alarmingly, in crucial regions.
Alarmingly, like how bad?
We saw figures like a 21% drop in Assam.
21%.
Yeah,
Wow.
2024 alone, yeah.
Yeah.
And an 11% drop in West Bengal.
Wow, those are massive drops in the key areas. What's causing that according to the reports? Is it just a bad year or?
The primary culprit cited is extreme weather events and the escalating impact of climate change.
Climate change, okay.
Think unpredictable monsoons, longer dry spells, shifts in temperature. These things directly affect the tea bushes, the yields. It's a direct hit.
So production is physically impacted by the climate.
Okay.
And how does India's overall market growth, the value, stack up against those big global numbers you mentioned?
Well, iMart's group projects the Indian market growing from USD 11.5 billion in 2024 to USD 15.0 billion by 2033.
Okay, so 11.5 to 15 billion, that's growth, right?
It is growth, yes, but look at the rate. That's a CAGR of 3.1%.
3.1%.
Right.
Compared to the global.
Compared to the 6.3% or 5.56% AGR we just talked about globally, India's projected growth rate is significantly slower.
So it's falling behind the global pace.
Essentially, yes. It's not keeping up.
Okay, so climate hitting the actual production and the market growth is trailing the world market. Are there other challenges mentioned in these reports?
Oh, yeah. Reports also highlight issues around competitiveness.
Meaning?
Maybe higher production costs, perhaps quality challenges in some segments. Also, market share challenges, trade tariffs that can hinder exports.
Right, getting it out to the world.
Exactly. And just general intense competition, both, domestically and internationally.
So this brings us to the organizations, right? The ones whose job it is to actually support this industry.
Correct.
The reports suggest these bodies, which are largely government-funded, might actually be part of the problem, or at least in need of a significant overhaul. Who are we talking about here?
Well, the key players mentioned are first the Tea Board of India.
Okay, heard of them?
Yeah, it's a statutory body under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It's meant to regulate and promote the industry.
Regulate and promote, got it.
Then you have the research institutions. TRA Taklai is a big one, known for its long history, major R&D center.
Right, the science guys?
Kind of, yeah. And also the United Planters Association of Southern India, their tea research foundation for the South. And finally, there's the Indian Tea Association, which mostly represents the producers, particularly the larger estates.
Okay, so these are the structures, the institutions in place to help the industry adapt, innovate, thrive.
That's the idea, yes.
But the reports seem to imply that given this current state decline happening amidst global growth, maybe these organizations aren't being as effective as they could be.
Precisely. I mean, if the industry is struggling like this, the analysis naturally turns to the support systems built around it. Are they working?
And that leads directly to the core proposal that seems to be emerging from these reports, restructuring these very organizations.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. What specific areas are they proposing to change? How would they overhaul these bodies?
The proposals seem to focus on four main pillars, according to the sources we looked at. First, hierarchy.
Hierarchy. Okay, what about it?
The idea is to streamline decision-making processes, make them faster, more agile.
Agile. Okay.
The report suggests that the current, multi-layered approval systems are just too slow. They prevent quick responses to market changes or sudden crises like, say, pest outbreaks or these extreme weather events.
So cutting through the red tape, basically, to react faster. Makes sense. What's the second area?
Second pillar is authority.
Authority. Giving them more power.
Essentially, yes. The proposal is to enhance their mandate, give these bodies more actual power to enforce policies.
Okay, enforce what kinds of policies?
Well, this seems crucial for addressing climate adaptation on the ground. Think giving them the authority to maybe mandate certain resilient farming practices or quickly distribute funds for protective measures like irrigation or shade nets.
So practical stuff for climate resilience.
Exactly. And it's also about giving them more teeth in proactive market expansion efforts, like negotiating trade barriers more effectively or maybe establishing direct links to overseas buyers.
More power to act and make things happen, especially on those key fronts. Climate and markets.
Got it. And the third pillar of this proposed restructuring. Third is operations. This is really about improving efficiency, potentially through integrating modern technology. Maybe better data collection on farms using sensors, perhaps AI for monitoring crop health, or even digital platforms for marketing and sales.
Using tech to run things better.
Right. And it's also about smarter allocation of resources. And the reports connect this directly to the need for more sustainable practices. Efficient operations can actually support that shift to eco-friendly farming methods that, as we said, global consumers are demanding.
Okay, so efficiency, sustainability, leveraging tech, that makes sense. And the final proposed change, the fourth pillar.
Fourth is responsibilities.
Yeah.
This involves redefining their roles, shifting the focus,
Redefining how?
with a stronger focus on innovation and market responsiveness. So this isn't just passive support anymore. It means actively driving the development and promotion of high-value specialty teas.
Back to the specialty teas.
Exactly, like organic, single estate, unique herbal, blends the stuff that fetches higher prices globally. It's about actively improving export competitiveness, making sure Indian tea can really stand out and compete effectively on the world stage.
It sounds like a really deliberate effort to shift these organizations from maybe a more traditional sort of regulatory focus.
Yeah, perhaps a bit bureaucratic
It
sometimes.
being dynamic drivers of innovation, climate resilience, and market capture.
That seems to be the core idea, yes.
And the reports also mention that getting policymakers involved is absolutely key to making any of this happen, right? It's not just up to the organizations themselves.
Yes, absolutely. They note the importance of engaging with the current leadership.
Yeah.
Figures mentioned include Shri Piyush Goyal, who is the Minister of Commerce and Industry,
Okay.
and Shri Sunil Barthwal, the Commerce Secretary. Any significant restructuring like this would definitely require their backing and, broader policy support.
Right. It needs that top-level buy-in. Okay, so bringing it back to that initial striking difference we talked about.
The reports really underscore this disparity by offering a direct comparison of the numbers, don't they?
They do, and it's quite revealing. Look at the market sizes for 2024. The global market is pegged around USD 17.42 billion.
Okay, globally.
Compared to the Indian market at USD 11.5 billion.
So a noticeable gap already.
Yeah. And then when you project forward, that gap potentially widens. The global market, as we said, is seen heading towards figures like $75 billion dollars or even close to $180 billion, dollars, with growth rates north of 5%.
Big numbers, fast growth.
Whereas India is projected to reach USD 15.0 billion, but not until 2033, and at that slower 3.1% CAGR.
Wow, that gap in both the current size and especially that projected growth rate, it's really significant.
It absolutely is. And when you put that alongside the drivers we discussed, global demand chasing health and sustainability versus Indian production battling climate change and export hurdles.
Right. It starkly highlights why these proposed strategic interventions, this restructuring, are being seen as so necessary.
Mm.
It's about helping India actually capture its potential share of that global opportunity.
So, okay, we've talked about global markets, Indian challenges, organizational charts, restructuring. But beyond all that, why does this whole situation matter to you listening right now? Why should you care?
Well, because the Indian tea industry isn't just, statistics on a page or exports figures. It's a cornerstone of the nation's economy.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, it's the direct source of livelihood for millions of people, millions, from small farmers, smallholders to workers on the large estates.
For real people, real families.
Absolutely. The health of this industry directly impacts their well-being, their futures, and it contributes significantly to the national economy as well. So understanding these challenges and the proposed solutions, it really means understanding potential pathways to safeguarding those livelihoods and hopefully revitalizing a truly vital piece of India's economic and, frankly, cultural fabric.
Yeah, absolutely. So wrapping this up then, the core tension, the core problem highlighted in the reports we've looked at is this clear and honestly concerning gap.
It is concerning.
You've got a global tea market experiencing really robust growth, driven by these new consumer trends.
Health, sustainability, specialty.
Right. And then you have India's industry facing production declines, slower growth, significantly impacted by climate change, yes, but also maybe by these underlying structural issues.
And the consistent takeaway, the thread running through these analyses, is that restructuring the key organizations supporting the industry.
The Tea Board, the research bodies, the associations.
Exactly. Focusing on making them more agile, giving them more authority, making their operations more efficient, and really redefining their responsibilities towards innovation that is presented as a crucial path forward.
A path to help India's tea sector adapt to the challenges and maybe finally tap into those lucrative global opportunities it seems to be currently missing out on.
That's the hope, yes. That's the argument being made.
So what does this all mean?
I mean, it really shows that even in an industry steeped in centuries of tradition, like tea in India,
Right.
the underlying organizational structure, how it functions, how it adapts, is absolutely critical, especially for navigating modern challenges like climate change and rapidly evolving global markets.
It's not just about growing tea anymore.
Not at all. It's about the entire system supporting it. So consider the sheer potential here. How could changes to organizational structure, streamlining hierarchy, enhancing authority, improving operations with tech, and redefining responsibilities towards innovation, how could that potentially transform such a vital national industry? What stands out to you, Weo, about the potential power of just, organizational design to impact real-world outcomes on such a massive scale?